Sonic Adventure 2 is renowned by many as being one of the most remarkable entries of the Sonic franchise. Its smooth gameplay, stunning graphics, and endlessly replayable stages have all captivated fans for many years now. And as much as I and plenty of others can talk about the legacy this game has left behind, it isn't actually the game itself that I want to tell you about, because today, we're going to be looking at some of its speedruns. If you've never watched a Sonic Adventure 2 speedrun before, strap in, because you're about to witness one of the most broken games the world has ever seen. Today, we aren't just going to cover glitches that skip sections of a stage. No, we're covering glitches that skip entire levels. And we're going to talk about how just one mechanic single-handedly destroyed Sonic Adventure 2 speedruns for the rest of time. This is the story of the glitch that broke Sonic Adventure 2. The glitch that we'll be covering today has basically become a staple of Sonic Adventure 2, and it's a trick known as the Super Bounce. Super bouncing is an incredibly strange, extremely game-breaking technique that's only made possible thanks to the Bounce Bracelet, an upgrade the player unlocks in the level Pyramid Cave. And this one single upgrade is what's responsible for the absolute destruction of every Sonic stage since the trick's discovery. Despite its daunting appearance, the glitch itself is actually pretty easy to explain. It works by first spin dashing towards a wall with a lot of speed, and by then jumping and pressing the action button shortly before colliding with it, Sonic is able to transfer all of his horizontal velocity into vertical velocity, allowing him to gain a ridiculous amount of height. Originally, the trick could be used for more arbitrary things like getting back to the snowboarding section of City Escape, but it was quickly discovered just how broken this technique could be for individual speedruns. In terms of the origins of the glitch, Super Bouncing's history surprisingly took a bit of digging to fully uncover. I reached out to the Sonic Adventure 2 speedrunning Discord in hopes of finding a potential time frame for the trick's discovery, and with the help of a few runners, it was pretty quickly agreed upon that the glitch was most likely discovered sometime around May of 2006 by the player Cybrax, nearly 4.5 years after the game's release. But this brought us to our next question. How were we supposed to find out who first used the glitch in an actual speedrun? We knew the trick was discovered sometime in 2006 thanks to some old forum posts, but finding any surviving videos from even 2007 was proving to be pretty difficult, so who knows how long it could take to find any information from times before that. But thankfully, with the help of an SA2 historian, I was able to find footage of the glitch from as early as October of 2006, much closer to the estimated time of discovery. It was used by the player Synux to skip grinding on a rail in Final Rush, saving him a few seconds, and it wouldn't be long before the glitch would have all sorts of other uses across the different stages. One of the most notable discoveries was a bounce that let the players skip a small portion of City Escape by clearing an invisible wall, demonstrated in this video by Sadistic Mystic from January of 2007, saving around 3 seconds. But an even bigger discovery was its use in Crazy Gadget, which allowed you to skip the puzzle section at the very end, saving over a minute compared to playing it normally. Having the ability to gain such ridiculous height seemingly on command was not only entertaining to watch, but it opened a gateway to what seemed like endless opportunities to exploit the game. The Egg Golem boss fight in particular saw one of the best uses for the glitch in terms of full game runs, because it allowed the player to skip all of the different boss fight sequences to finish the battle in under 30 seconds. In other words, a revolutionary skip. But as time moved forward, there were still tons of other time saves that would be discovered all over the place, with some saving just a few seconds, while others could add up to saving minutes. And before long, it was a necessary trick for you to be familiar with if you wanted to get a world record. And very quickly, this went down as one of the most infamous glitches in gaming history. But what if I told you that super bouncing isn't the only reason the bounce bracelet is broken? You see, the bounce bracelet isn't just broken because it allows you to super bounce. This ability goes even further than that. Not only does this ability allow you to clear invisible walls and skip parts of stages, but it lets you destroy gravity itself. This is where things start to get crazy, because once you can defy gravity, the sky's the limit when it comes to speedrunning. And this has made room for some absolutely insane tricks to be discovered. For example, players discovered that by jumping off a surface at an angle and then using the bounce bracelet, Sonic could maintain the skewed gravity the angle gave him for as long as he stayed airborne, allowing him to clear massive distances that would otherwise be completely impossible. Hex skip is one of the most infamous applications of this technique, as it allows you to skip a pretty massive portion of Pyramid Cave. And still, there was a lot more to it than just that. It was also discovered that by bouncing off of a loop in the right way, it would give Sonic a massive boost in speed, being especially helpful in stages like Metal Harbor, where it allows for a pretty insane skip to occur. But this was when it started becoming apparent that this one single exploit had the power to completely change the game forever, because if it was used in the right way, you could take it to some unimaginable heights. Outside of every Sonic stage, there rests a series of kill planes that will instantly cause a death if they're ever touched. However, these boundaries don't extend across the whole stage, as evidenced by this kill plane viewer on screen. So theoretically, if you were able to play your cards just right, you could carefully navigate around each of them to avoid losing a life. While this wouldn't necessarily benefit you in every stage, in levels that start from up high and finish down low, however, this meant that if you could somehow get around these kill planes, you could in theory skip entire stages. And that's exactly what players began to seriously exploit back in 2012. The first example that we got to see of this was in a Final Rush task made by Hazel from December of that year, where he would pull off the fittingly named Fast Final Rush skip towards the start of the stage. By skewing Sonic's gravity with enough speed off of this rail, Sonic could jump off and use the bounce attack to actually fly through a kill plane without ever coming into contact with it. Basically, if Sonic is traveling with enough speed, he's able to be on one side of a death plane for one frame and on the other side of it by the next, meaning the game never actually had time to register him being in contact with it. This allowed you to then carefully navigate around a few more death planes during your descent until you finally fell into the goal ring around 35 seconds later. A similar concept would later be discovered in Crazy Gadget, but instead of clipping through a death plane, you were able to jump in between two of them, and from here you could use your altered gravity to fly all the way to the goal ring. The trick was named Crazy Gadget Skip Skip, and the trick was first executed in a tool-assisted speedrun made by Hazel and Tails98 in 2014, and was then performed by a human for the first time in 2015 when Dark Pro managed to pull it off in an IL, finishing the level in only 49 seconds. This skip would prove to be revolutionary once it became viable for full story speedruns, as it would cut out a massive portion of the stage. But what's crazy is that this still isn't the end of what the bounce bracelet has to offer. In tool-assisted speedruns, for example, it was demonstrated that by constantly bouncing and alternating from certain angles of the control stick, it would increase Sonic's speed pretty exponentially, making for some of the most insane-looking movement I think I've ever seen. Of course, because of how many inputs this requires per second, it isn't something that a human can ever really pull off. But there are still a few other small techniques humans can use that will save time. For example, you can bounce onto rails to start gaining speed a lot faster as a means of micro-optimizing your gameplay. And you could also perform what's called a bounce accel on the ground, which lets Sonic accelerate faster by canceling a bounce with a homing attack when he started to run. And lastly, you could alter your gravity in all sorts of different ways to either skip segments or create some insane looking routes for getting through each of them. And all of these insane exploits, combined with the super bounce, came together because of one of the most broken abilities the world has ever seen. The part that I find the most interesting, though, is that normally when we hear the word broken, we usually associate that with something being wrong in some way. But in the case of Sonic Adventure 2, this couldn't be farther from the truth, because all of these glitches and exploits that have been discovered over the years have all come together to create one of the most fascinating speedruns in the entire world. Getting to see all of these techniques used in real time would probably almost look fake to a first-time viewer, and honestly, that's a part of what makes this ability so entertaining to watch. It's kind of insane to think that all of this history, all of these glitches that we discussed today were caused by one single choice from Sega to add the bounce bracelet to their game, and without it, who knows where the game would stand today. In fact, I would even go as far as saying that SA2 wouldn't be anywhere close to as popular as it is now if it wasn't for this ability's legacy. But with just how much freedom this ability grants the player, it's only a matter of time before even more techniques are eventually discovered. So I guess until I have some more things to cover, I'll just have to leave you off by saying, thanks for watching. Big thank you to Brian, Zethor, Modified Monkey, Sadistic Mystic, and the entire SA2 speedrunning Discord for helping make this video possible. I really appreciate all of your guys' help.